Farmers Insurance. It joins the list of insurers turning away business in California. We just had Allstate. We had State Farm. I mean, vast majority of insurers are going to leave California. Why? You might already know if you've been following this channel. If you don't, let's get into it. Farmers will limit sales of new homeowners policies while State Farm and Allstate have stopped selling altogether. And by limit sales, they mean like, I think, 7,000? It's just some 7,000 policies a month. And less than 100,000 policies a year. That's insane. The population of California is how many million? A lot. Yeah. I mean, California, nobody's going to be able to buy a house in California because there's going to be nobody to insure it. And you got to have insurance if you're going to finance a property, right? Used to be one of those just guaranteed things. All right, go over to that guy over there and get your insurance policy, or, go call up your carrier, call up Allstate. I've used Allstate for years. I've also used Geico. I got tired when Allstate said, we need to have you on an automatic payment plan, Mr. Reynolds. You haven't been consistent with your payments. That was a long time ago. Yeah, that happened. Farmers Insurance has started limiting sales of new homeowners policies in California, joining two of the other largest property and casualty insurers in the state in turning away from the high cost of wildfire claims and reconstruction. With record-breaking inflation, make sure you guys can read this. With record-breaking inflation, severe weather events. All right, let's break it down. Record-breaking inflation. Yep. Severe weather events. Yeah, wild. Reconstruction costs continuing to climb. We are focused on serving our customers while effectively managing our business. There's also a deal in California where effectively insurance companies, because the state of California is trying to protect the consumer, they've done such a good job that there's going to be no insurers left. How's that for protection? What happened to all of our protection? They left because they couldn't make any money. Now, some are saying that these insurance companies, they're taking advantage. They're taking advantage because they're not making any money, so they're pulling out. Well, the deal is they got to be able to issue policies that they're going to be able to get the premiums for and still cover major catastrophes, right? So you've got reinsurance companies involved, all kinds of different stuff. But this is happening in Florida as well, but not to this extent, and not because of the wildfire. People always say, Sean, you forgot about Florida. This happens in areas where you've got natural disaster and catastrophe, because the inflation, yeah, that's everywhere. But California in particular, and I think a lot of what you see in California is mismanagement of policy, and then also allowing construction of homes really close to areas that are now just basically Tinder and not the dating app. I knew you knew that, though. The insurer said in a June 30th filing with the California Department of Insurance that it would limit new coverage for homes to about 7,000 policies a month. The Real Deal reported that State Farm and Allstate had previously said that they would stop selling new homeowner policies in the nation's largest state, and Farmers said it won't sell any more policies than it would have before recent market changes. Yeah, got a market change. We're going to have to reimagine and rethink issuing any policies in your state of California. Talking about this on the last podcast. I mean, California's just got so many things going against it. Governor Newsom, he did a stop in Idaho the other day, and people in Idaho are just making fun of him. I mean, he's a handsome guy. Don't get me wrong. That guy has movie star looks. That's what he should be doing. What is he doing running California? I mean, stuff that he comes up with, I am typically diametrically opposed to. It's like, what? This isn't going to help anything. This isn't going to help anybody. Let's do this. No other state's doing it, but let's do this. One of the stories I read recently about Newsom was he religiously watches Fox News because he wants to be able to argue that viewpoint. You know what? I read CNN all the time because I want that perspective as well. So just make sure you get all your facts together. I don't know what Newsom is doing though, because I mean, his facts half the time you're like, what? You're doing that? That makes no sense at all. Insurers are retreating from California because they aren't able to charge enough in premiums to cover their costs. According to the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, the trade group blamed the state's regulatory framework, which requires insurers to get approval from the state's insurance department for any premium increases. So what they've done is they've just basically kept their rates the same. And their rates the same aren't covering for these catastrophic wildfires and inflation going up, meaning expenses are more. And then also just the cost of construction. Remember when the price of a 4x8 piece of plywood just went through the roof? I mean, I don't need to tell any of you guys out there in the trades, because I know there's a whole bunch of you. Lumber just went through. I mean, it was like, it's how much? A sheet? Is that per sheet? It was like, I'm totally grabbing numbers from my you-know-where, but I want to say it went from like $6 or $9 a sheet up to $60 or $90 a sheet, something just crazy. I was having a roof done at the time, and I got my price of the plywood locked in for, per sheet. That was the bid on however many pieces I needed. I needed a bunch. Just because I had did I have a flat roof? Did I have a hot tar roof? I can't, no, it was composition. They had to rip off a couple of layers though, and it needed a bunch of, new sheathing. And the price during that time period between when I got the bid and when the roof was done, it was during the pandemic, and it took a while, right? It took a while. So like, it was April when I got the bid all done and said, yeah. And then it was, I don't know, September or October when the actual roof was done, which I felt pretty good about. But cost of that wood just, went up. So we get that. But in California, these insurance companies, they can't bump up the rates that they need to just make a go of it. Some people are saying they're just taking advantage. They're just screwing the customer. What? An insurance company screwing people? I don't think so. Just think of all the slogans. Amica just went through one where it was like, empathy is our best policy. All right. I'd like to buy a policy of empathy. Can I have one, please? How much is it? What does it cover? What do I get with that? How about State Farm? What's State Farm's, their thing is, State Farm is there, something like that. And you're like, what? Where? How? I mean, you're an insurance company. Are you really there? Are you really? I like the one, who's the guy for, maybe it's Allstate. I think it's the Allstate guy. The guy with all banged up with bandages and stuff. And he's always talking about just some horrific accident happening. I like that because that's more realistic. Insurers do not want to retrench from one of the nation's most important markets, but cannot protect policyholders when they are struggling to secure an adequate rate and manage their risk exposure. They do want to retrench from California because their exposure is too much, and the damn house that they're going to insure might burn up in a wildfire. I mean, does that seem reasonable to you? Kind of feels reasonable to me. Anything else, and you're like, now we really want to provide coverage for your area. Your neighborhood, I mean, it's important to us. It's a priority. You as the consumer are a priority. But man, if we don't make any money, we out of here. And that's what you've got going on. 3 major companies saying no, and we'll insure a little bit. Insurers must have the financial strength to deliver on our promises to customers when disaster strikes. Absolutely. That's why you see these, mid-tier insurance companies. Yeah, I've got to declare bankruptcy because that one just took us down. Hurricane Irma comes along and just blasts an entire section of, housing and buildings and all that. Consumer advocates like Public Citizen, on the other hand, say the industry is exploiting a crisis for profits. Probably a little bit, but if they don't hand out policies, they ain't making any money either. So there's that. One reason for an increase in reconstruction costs, in addition to inflation boosting the price of building materials, is the growing destructiveness of wildfires in California. 6 of the state's 10 largest wildfires were in 2020 or later, according to the state's Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Is it my imagination, or have these wildfires just gotten worse and worse? Is it because of overpopulation? Do we have too many bears out there smoking cigarettes? Remember back in the day when it's like only you can prevent forest fires? So much of our late summer now, the air quality is dictated by wildfires. And that's here in Seattle, where you've got coastal winds coming off Puget Sound, bringing in all kinds of air that cleans things up. Then they go up and over the mountains and they dump a bunch of rain. And, here our air quality in Seattle is pretty good. But if you're up in Canada, we get wildfire smoke from Canada. We get wildfire smoke from down in California. We get it we've had a couple of summers of just like, don't really want to go outside because, it just, terrible air quality. It just feels like you've closed the tent and brought your fire inside and you're just huffing a bunch of wildfire smoke. That's not good. Homeowners who can't find a private insurance company have the option of purchasing a California FAIR plan, described on its website as a temporary safety net. Those are very, very expensive policies because they're basically policies of last resort. But if other major carriers have all pulled out, what are you going to do? Literally, we are hearing more and more stories about deals, real estate deals, falling apart, not because of lack of financing or the interest rate's too high or I didn't qualify or the building inspection was just a piece of crap and don't want to buy this home, or I can't do what I want to with this property, so I'm not going to take it. Or, the fridge didn't work the way I wanted it to, so I'm not going to buy this house, ridiculous things like that. You get those kind of things all the time. People back out on all kinds of stuff, right? But not very often is it, hey, I can't get an insurance policy. I can't get a homeowner's insurance policy on my home. But that's what's happening in California. So, hey, move to California. I mean, you buy your dream home. It's going to be wildly overpriced. You're not going to get much for it. It's going to be super expensive. Insurance? I mean, that's asking a lot. And you can't have it all. You can't have it all. I mean, you can't have everything. I mean, so insurance, I mean, you're asking a lot. This is California. This is land of the free, home of the brave, that whole thing. Farmers is owned by Swiss insurer Zurich Insurance Group and based in Woodland Hills, California. We are not insuring in our own home state because they can't make a go of it, or as they say, they can't make a go of it. Something's got to change in California. Something has to change in California. A lot of stuff has to change in California. And I believe it is. It's just going to be, since we're talking about forest fires, it's going to be a slow burn. It's going to take forever to turn this stuff around. And in the meantime, this dumpster fire of policy, I mean, all of this stuff that's supposed to protect the consumer, look at how that's doing. I mean, I am having people send me quotes of like $33,000 a year for homeowners insurance on something that is not that crazy. And the odds of that catching on fire from a forest fire, from a wildfire, I mean, I'm looking at the map going, okay, I mean, maybe. But obviously the insurance companies, that's what they do is they analyze risk, right? They rate risk. What are the odds of this catching on fire? Well, it's in California. High. That's essentially what they're saying, right? High. And also California is super expensive. So it's super expensive to rebuild. Everything in California is expensive. And yet people still want to move there. People still move there. You've got employment. You've got solid employment. You've got the weather. If you're into warm weather, okay, sunshine. Yeah, you've got that. You got the coast. You got beaches and stuff. All right. Yeah, you got that. But more and more, the picture of moving to California as a state, I think it just becomes less and less appealing, just less attractive in general. I mean, hey, let's move to California. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that. Been following, Instagram accounts from different parts of the country because it's always interesting to see what other people are talking about. So people were talking about, hey, how Tennessee is a real option. And I talk about Tennessee just because it's someplace that I've been to the airport. Have I done anything more in Tennessee than the airport? I don't think so. Because oftentimes, if you're getting a connecting flight back in the day to Dallas, that's what you do. You go through Tennessee. I know it makes no sense, but neither does commercial air flight sometimes. And so Tennessee is a state that I'm interested in, possibly from a retirement standpoint. It's probably not going to be Washington State. I'll tell you that, right? Unless I've just got a fleet of grandchildren that are all here and I'll have a condo here or something. You know what I mean? Something along those lines. But I'd like to go, live somewhere else and try somewhere else. Tennessee is one of those places. But so many of the memes that I see is, yep, Tennessee's full. We're not taking any more. But hey, you can go to that state. You can go to that state. Go to Texas all day long. Go to Texas. Because everybody's trying to get out of California. And there's so many transplants from California. California still has a ton of transplants coming to Washington State, coming to Seattle because of that whole tech thing. And we don't have a state income tax. Not yet. We've got a wealth tax that is just ridiculous. Well, we've got no state income tax. We've got lower expenses for sure. Our real estate is cheaper, not by much anymore. You might be shocked at some of our rental rates. They've gone through the roof. I mean, California was always high. San Francisco in particular, very high. LA, high. I mean, San Diego, high rents. But Seattle has done a really good job of shrinking the pool of rental properties, and Washington State in general, to the point where there's not enough. I mean, no place has enough housing for sale right now. Just don't. And that's one of those things where just recently, I think it was in the month of July, 1 out of 100 of the biggest metropolitan markets had a little tiny bit of decline on housing prices, on their median housing prices. The rest of those 99 other housing markets, on average, for the month of July, they averaged about 0.75% increase in value. Because you've got no supply. It's not because interest rates have come down willy-nilly. It's not because demand is, just gone through the roof. It's because you don't have any supply. So you've got what few people you do have in the marketplace, that interest rates are what they are now. They're looking at a very small amount of housing that's available. And so things are already going up. What's going to happen to the housing market when interest rates drop, which they will? They will, mark my words. You're going to see another feeding frenzy. And I think that comes late fall, but probably our next spring market. That's when you'll see things kind of go off to the races again, because we don't have enough inventory. There's just simply not enough inventory. And people always want to say, well, just build some more houses. It takes so long to get a development through on mass scale in Washington, in California, in Oregon, West Coast, anywhere. It takes a long time because most of these states, Texas would be the exception. Like Texas and Florida, they just blow and go, right? But these West Coast states, we don't have the ability to build housing quickly. They're building housing, quickly in Dallas, those areas, but their absorption rate is also pretty high too, because Texas is growing so fast, and Florida has as well. So, it does not surprise me that Farmers is pulling out. What surprises me is that we haven't seen more of these stories of just, insurance companies saying, no go. We're not insuring there. We cannot make a go of it there. And whether or not that's true, who knows? It's what we're doing. California needs to have some revision done because its constituents who voted for all this nonsense and crap, and people that put this in place, they are getting what they paid for. So, you don't really feel sorry for them, but you're going to have changes at some point in time, because these insurance carriers pulling out and just really limiting the pool of who's issuing insurance, that is not sustainable long-term. And we all know it. So you're going to have some changes. What are those going to be? Something other than what they got going on right now, right? Yeah, for sure. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.